Welcome to H Fashion Channel. My name is Abisola. Today, I'll be taking you how to measure then how to divide the basic body pattern. So, as you listed before, how to how to calculate. Sorry, how to calculate and divide basic body measurements. So if you can remember during the last video that I uploaded, I think I explained that the basic body measurement, this consists of, we have the back, we have the bust, the waist, half length, the half length, then we have the hip, the sleeve, round sleeve. You can see. Now these are the basic body measurements. We have the back, the bust, the waist, half length, the hips, the sleeve, and the round sleeve. Now, for me to be able to make a kind of division or the explanation, I need to pick out a certain number for my measurements. Now, I'll choose a kind of 14 for my back, make use of 36 inches for my waist, then 28 half length, I'll make use of 15. Then for the hips, I'll make use of 36 as well. For my sleeve, we have 3 categories of sleeve. 3 categories for sleeve. We have our long sleeve. We have our quarter sleeve. Then we have our short sleeve. So we all know that for the long sleeve, it's a kind of a sleeve that will reach the hem of your hand, like the one that I'm wearing. The sleeve that will reach the hem of this hand, that's what we call long sleeve. Then we are talking about quarter sleeve, the one that will fall below after your elbow. We call that quarter sleeve. Then the short sleeve, there is one that will be a kind of short that will be above the elbow line. So it refers to that as the sleeve. So since we have something, we can use 20 for the long sleeve. Then for the quarter, you can use 30. Then for the short, we can make use of 8, depending on the sleeve the persons want. Then for the round sleeve, for the long one, we can make use of 7. Then for the quarter one, we can make use of 12. Then for the upper one, you can make use of 10. It depends on the fatness of the hand. Now, we've already labeled I would like to rub the aspect. So we've already labeled the basic body pattern. So what next is that I didn't know, okay, we are done with the numbering of the basic body. So now we'll go to the following steps. The following steps is on a normal regular aspect. Before you cut a cloth, the clothes have to be folded into 4 places. Yes, into 4 places. So when for example, let's start from the calculation of the back. Our back measurement is usually divided into 2 places. That is the sample. Our back into 2. When we are doing the calculation, the back will be divided into 2 places. That's it. But for the bust, the waist, the hips, all of these will be divided into 4 places. That's it. Will be divided into 4 places plus 2 inches sewing allowance. Sewing allowance. That's that. Back is the only aspect. Without sewing allowance or allowances, either of the two. Now, as you can see on the board, you can see my back is here. So in every aspect of cutting, our back is normally divided into two places without any sewing allowance. If your back is 14, you will divide it into two when you are drafting on a cloth. That means with your tape rule, you are going to measure 7 inches on the cloth. 7 inches on the cloth. If your back is 16 or 17 or 18, it will only be divided into two places. That means if your back is 16, when you divide it into two, you are going to have 8 inches. So the 8 inches exactly is what you are going to place on the cloth while cutting her. But when it comes to bust, that means the bust. When it comes to the waist and the hips, they are the only aspects that will only be divided into 4 places, and it will have 2 inches sewing allowance. That 2 inches sewing allowance, for example, we all know that before cutting of the clothes have to be folded into 4 places, which means when you fold it into 4 places, that's why you have to divide your measurement into 4. After dividing into 4, you had your 2 inches sewing allowance. Then when you are talking about half length, your half length, if your half length is 15, it will not be divided, because when we are talking about anything concerning length cannot be divided, because it's at the way you are being measured from the shoulder to the half length. It cannot be divided. The only thing that needs to be what, we only have your sewing allowance, which is 2 inches to your sewing allowance, which means the back will only be divided into 2. Your bust, your waist and hips will be divided into 4 places, while your half length will not you will not divided, you will not cut into 2. The only aspect that you just only had 2 inches sewing allowance also to your length. If you are sewing for longer now, swear anything that comes in length will not divide. You are not going to divide anything. Or no, the only thing that you need to do when it comes to length, either gown length, sleeve length, trouser length, anything length, we only had your sewing allowance depending on the way you want the hem of your clothes to be. So you are not going to divide when it comes to length. We only add to the length of the clothes because of the sewing. We only add sewing allowances to the length of the clothes that you want to sew. So when it comes to the sleeve as well, that will call sleeve length. So that we only have 2 inches to the sewing allowance. When it comes to anything length, be it sleeve length, anything length, you only come. But when it So anything, when we are talking about anything length, you will not divide, you will not subtract. You only had the sewing allowance of 2 inches. Be it gown length, full gown length, anything length, you are not going to divide. You are going to add sewing allowance to the length. So for example, now for your sleeve as well, you are going to add, we have sleeve. I don't know, maybe it's long sleeve, 3/4 sleeve, or short sleeve. Be it long sleeve, you have your 2 inches sewing allowance. Be it short sleeve, you have your 2 inches sewing allowance. That is that for the sleeve. So when it comes to the round sleeve, what will happen to your round sleeve also is like you had 2 inches. 2 inches sewing allowance. But before you add your 2 inches sewing allowance, we all know that we have 2 ends. So in that case, when measuring someone, you cannot measure the 2 ends together being folded like this. You are going to measure separately. So now, as for the round sleeve, if your round sleeve is 10 or 7 or 12, I didn't know. The only thing that we only need is to divide the round sleeve into 2 plus the 2. We are talking about the sleeve. If your sleeve is 10, the only thing that you need to do is just divide your sleeve by 2, then plus your 2 inches sewing allowance. So as you can see now, I've already explained, back is only measurement that does not need allowance. Just if your back is 14, just divide it into 2. The same 7 that you get without even 0.5 inches, that's how you're going to get it. But for the bust, for the waist and the hips, it will be divided by 4 inches. Then no, it will be divided into 4 places. Then after dividing into 4 places, then you can add your 2 inches sewing allowance. Then for the half length, anything that comes in time of maybe half length, full length, sleeve length, anything that has something to bears the word length, you are not going to divide, but to add 2 inches for the sewing allowance, at least 2 inches for the sewing allowance. Then we are talking about the sleeve. We all know the sleeve is meant for the arm. It's also, we are talking about sleeve length as well. You can see for the sleeve length as well, you are not going to divide or multiply it. The only thing that you also need is just add your 2 inches also to your sleeve. You know that the sleeve also what carries length, sleeve length. So what you need to do is add your 2 inches sewing allowance. As you can see on the board, we have written it down. Just add your 2 inches sewing allowance. Then your round sleeve as well, you can only divide it into 2. The major reason why we divide our round sleeve into 2 that we have 2 ends. Then we cannot measure the 2 ends at a go. We can only measure 1 end. Then after measuring the hands, we only divide it into 2 places. Then after dividing it, you add your 2 inches to the sewing allowance. So that's that for the back, for the bust, for the hips length, the sleeve, the round sleeve, and the waist as well. I've discussed it. Then I'll move on to the calculation aspect. So far, these are the logic for getting your calculations right. So I would like to break it down a little bit so that we can understand the explanation that I've been making so far. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, click and like. Thank you for watching.